now, unfortunately, but was looking at chironomids and mayflies and caddis and any number of other aquatic insects. And I've always been a big fly fisherman, so clearly the more you understand about the want to bite them, want to eat, want to grab them at least. So anyway, we reason we know that number is that we do an annual harvest. When we are able to sample every year what our population is, and we sell those fish to caterers and food truck folks and a variety of people of harvesting this fish, and then they'll have one or two special menu days with those fish, and we make some money. Do anything, we don't feed them. They're naturally fed by a combination of crayfish, which is probably their most smaller fish of all different. And we're 6 ounces away from the state records. So wow. At some point in the near future, we will have the state record that'll come out of this pond. So
that's really cool.
So of both agriculture as well as recreation of the fishing side. So,
neat. Very cool. So, yeah, we love the idea of sort of farming fish and that and trying to integrate aquatic, or aquaponics or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it, but raising up some fish out of as one of the outputs of Blue Dasher. We'll see. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and the ability to do floating rafts, much like the Mayans did historically, still do. Some of their in Mexico, and then the Chinese have been doing it now, to where you can have PVC drainage pipe, for example, 6-inch on rafts, and that they can become literally shade for fish, because fish don't like to be visible and don't like in the sunlight, and they'll just float around in a pond situation. Doesn't need to be even very big pond, and the water going through the pipe will actually provide enough water and nutrients for plants to grow. So you can use Dixie cups in holes in the pipe and styrofoam to cause it to float, and let the water movement through wind and the movement of just waves and such be able to flood the plants. And you can grow, greens and other things depending on the time of the year. And then you do have to separate the roots from the fish somehow, which we usually put a wire mesh, like a screen mesh underneath, so the fish can't get to the roots. But other than that, it's a really cool way to both grow plants that can be edible as well as add value to the fish that are in ponds too. So
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to see that system. It'd be a lot of fun.
So we got about 12, 13 minutes left here. Let me see what other questions we might have. I don't see any yet, but if people in the audience, if you have questions, please put them into the chat area, and we'll make sure that we get Jonathan asked. But tell us some ways that our group might be able to help you. We have 30,000 people that are a part of our community somewhere all around the world, and we're always looking to help those people that we think are doing things that are the right way, and your group certainly is doing that. So what are ways that our community could be helping you?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. Funding is always appreciated. This research doesn't do itself. And it's not something that large granting opportunities end up funding very often. And so we really rely on donations as part of our scientific endeavors. We're also looking for places to do our science. So if you have an interesting farm that you'd like included in Thousand Farm Initiative, then please, let us know, holler at me. And hopefully there will be a link to our social media and my email address so that people could do just that. And then make sure that the science is reaching the decision makers. So we have a number of published studies now, and those can be used for developing decision making frameworks. Maybe it's by farmers themselves. Or maybe it's by policymakers, maybe it's by other members of the community. So those would be some really important ways to help.
Very cool. And I'm assuming Arib's already scrolled through to where some of the donation could occur. And do you have a form that people will fill out, or they just reach out to you if they have a farm that they might want to be entered into your Thousand Farm Initiative?
Yeah, well, we've got a form that's available, and but reach out to me via email, and we can see what we can do. Right now, we're focusing on the U.S., continental U.S., and maybe a little bit in Canada. So, but hopefully, Thousand Farm will be wildly successful, and we'll be able to implement it all over the planet.
Very cool. What other insight would you like to give to our audience here today about what you're up to and what you're doing?
Boy, I don't know. I think that yeah, it's an exciting time. There's a lot of things that are challenging the planet, aren't there? And it's really easy to focus on all those problems. But at the same time, we have some tremendous solutions too. And regenerative agriculture is one of those solutions. I mean, we can use this to not only heal, a farming operation, but also we can use this to heal the planet. So that's really exciting. Now it's just a matter of getting things done. And we need people that are to take bold action. The days of waving our hands and pamphleteering and just talking about things, and those are behind us. There's a real sense of urgency. We need people doing something, and so we really are trying to practice what we preach in that, and we work very hard every day trying to bring our food system around into something that can be really productive for both farmers as well as the planet.
Do you get enough curiosity or any curiosity from industrial farmers that are around you, and you're, I know they're within very close proximity of where you're at? Do they come by and at least show some interest on a curiosity perspective?
More and more often, yes. Change comes I'm a scientist, right? So are you. But I'm also a farmer. Change. Yeah, we're not a data-driven society, and we may be getting to be a less data-driven society. Uh, and so that's real humbling. We need data in order to change our food system in a healthy way, but it's not sufficient to change behavior. What's necessary to change behavior is relationships and trust. And that's not something they teach you in graduate school. And so, how are we working within our own community? We're trying very, very hard to develop those relationships and friendships that can help to inspire change. And we have some conservative neighbors that will come by and they'll start talking to you a little bit, and eventually the conversation turns to maybe grazing some cover crops on that field crop ground, and incorporating some soybeans or rye into their soybeans just to see how it worked, and those kinds of ideas. So they're watching, and I'm not saying we're the ones that are changing them, but certainly we're allowing them to realize they're not alone.
Yeah, and I used to always say, I haven't said this in a long time, but people have listened to me and us for 5 years know that I've said this, which is you ask a farmer, a typical industrial farmer, why do you sell almost everything you have through the elevator? And they'll say, well, my dad did it that way, and my grandpa did it that way, and that's the reason I do it that way.
Yeah.
Is that a really good reason to be doing things? So
No.
anyway, my mother's side of my family were immigrants from Pennsylvania to Oklahoma in the land rush of the early 1900s. And my cousins are now retiring from essentially running the family farms, and my second cousins or their kids are now the ones that are running, and they're in Oklahoma and they're industrial. They still, it's what are yields, what's our corn yield, what's our wheat yield, what's our, how do we increase that yield year after year, how much ammonia do we use, and and they don't have any soil, they have dirt. And they readily admit that. And they believe that they can continue to be generational, and I don't think they have a chance to be. I mean, I think this generation, my second cousins, are probably the end for those types of farms there in Oklahoma. So,
yeah, I think so too. I'll give presentations for farmers all over the planet, and talk to them about regenerative agriculture. Sometimes I'll get them, raising their hands afterwards. That sounds really good. That's regenerative farming thing, but I mean, what's it going to cost me to change? I'm invested in this current system, and I tell them that's the wrong question. What's it going to cost you not to change? It's going to cost you your farm. It's probably going to cost you your grandkids. Is that worth it? I don't think it is, and I think we're living through a pretty massive evolutionary event right now. And folks that are clinging on to the old way of doing things in an industrial manner aren't going to be around much longer, unfortunately. And hopefully we can help them, everybody, to adapt and survive in this new world.
Yeah. Well, we are right about at the top of the hour, and we try to be respectful to you as our speaker, as well as to our audience. Anybody in the audience, if you've got any other questions, put them in here real quickly. We just got 3 or 4 minutes. And Arib, do you have any questions for Jonathan?
I don't have any questions. I was admiring the whole thing, like what he's doing and what he has accomplished, I guess. So moving through his website, moving through his Instagram page, I love the pictures, I love the animals. So I think it's a shout out. So thank you for so much for being here.
Jonathan, Arib is in Pakistan, in a very urban area, but over the years he's learned a lot about agricultural practices,
It's great.
My grandfather used to do it, and because I'm in a region of Punjab, which is a very agricultural area, but I have lived in the urban area basically. So yeah, I think that connects me back to my heritage, I guess. I can understand things there and then go back and talk about it. Thank you so much.
That's awesome, Joe. That's great.
And you're young, my friend. You're going to have a lot more influence over time than Jonathan and I, who are a little bit older than you. And so your youth will serve you value in that. So Jonathan, any last thoughts as we wrap up here?
Nope, I think that just reminding people that there's a lot of hope right now, and it's an exciting time of change, and to be part of that change.
And then Lynn just threw in a rather long comment question. I'm just going to get to this real quickly. So let's see. Sort of off topic, and speaking of studies, Stefan Sobkowiak, don't know that name, so talks about a study done on his farm on spraying milkway to prevent fungus issues, but nothing was ever published, probably because it did so well. Do you know if there's any way to get one's hands on data for a study like that? I'd love to see someone grab that data and actually publish a paper on it.
Well, aside from talking to the author or the scientist, there really isn't a way, unless, yeah, depending on where it was conducted, I guess. Maybe the institution has a copy of it, but.
And then here's a really cool one. Maybe we'll end on this. This is from JM. What can or should non-farmers with lawns do to transition their lawns to grow crops?
Oh, let's see. To transition your lawns to grow crops, huh? Well, I would say solarize it. Well, the lawn, I mean, if you're going to do that, and then put some plastic down that ends up killing that, you'll probably let it rise back up, do it again, and then get your seed ready, get an annual cover down, and allow that to kind of start to take the place of that lawn. If you let it just go, then you end up seeing a lot of weed development and things that you don't necessarily want in that until the system stabilizes. And then do not till the soil. That is one of the worst things you can do, is tilling that soil up. So figure out a way of sowing seeds directly into the soil and mulching those in order to maintain control of the plant community and things like that. So that's what we do here on Blue Dasher.
And by the way, Zebulon, who spoke with us, Farrell, several months ago, has a website on what he calls polyculture paddocks. And a paddock would be what we'd call a lawn area here. And because he's not talking about a paddock for livestock, he's talking about what you can do. And he actually has a really good set of videos that you could go watch, JM, about how to convert, again, a lawn area into something growing edible crops. And he does, again, very little after prepping the soil, like Jonathan just described, to provide, almost what you'd think about in a row cropping. Instead, it's a highly diverse cover situation that will then, don't worry about weeds that you call them, because they'll they'll get out competed over time, maybe take several seasons, but then he has a combination of turnips and greens and berries and a variety of others that are all growing in this one area. And he has walkways, just like you'd have in a certain circumstance, but no real rows. And there's no, as Jonathan said, no tilling, because you just want that soil to get rich, and you want those microbes that live near the surface typically to stay near the surface, and don't till them down and get rid of them, which is the biggest mistake that people make. And I made it all the time in the past, until 15 years ago. So
it was conventional knowledge, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what it was. So JM, you said, could you say his name again? I'm not sure who you meant by that. Zebulon. Zebulon Farrell. And you can watch one of his presentations. He's actually done a couple with us on our system, and it's free. So just go into eatcommunity.com and go back and watch one of his presentations. Well, Jonathan, this was so fun. I probably only host about 1 out of 3 of our presentations anymore. I have a group of young people, and I just said, I'm going to host this one today. I really wanted to spend time with you, so I've appreciated that. You are certainly welcome to come visit us here. And if you're in the area in a month or so, let's just stay in touch and figure out how to do that. I'd love to come visit you at some point in time. So.
All right, sounds real good. Thanks for having me. It was sure nice to meet you and talk to everybody.
Sounds